And here we go.
You are listening to the only show where a former police officer, alongside a current law school student, tackle politics, the legal system, and corruption on the show known around the world as Qualified Immunity.
You're not going to want to get around it anymore. Why not? Some of your friends, Ladies and gentlemen, we are T-minus 24 hours away from having a 9-panel Supreme Court again.
You seem excited.
I don't understand conservatives, quote unquote, fervor over Amy Coney Barrett. I don't get it. This is being recorded on a Sunday night. By the time we record it, it'll publish tomorrow morning. By the time we record another episode, Amy Coney Barrett will most likely be confirmed to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Do you think it's actually going to happen Monday?
I don't know. I actually expect a delay.
Like, I do not understand if you're a conservative or I don't understand anything beyond tribalism of why you want Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court.
Well,
I don't get it. I wholeheartedly don't get it.
All the people that are super excited about it, I don't understand why they're excited about anything having to do with the Supreme Court in the first place, because the Supreme Court, it's always like this when the Supreme Court does is.
And I had a conversation with my dad today because we try and eat lunch with my parents every Sunday, and my parents, like, I'm about to be 30 in like 2 weeks ish. But my parents, I'm adopted, so my parents are in their 80s. And my dad he goes, I made the statement, they're not supposed to make decisions, they're supposed to make opinions. And my dad said one of the greatest things ever, he goes, yes, but the people let them make decisions. Like, one of those, the Supreme Court is not supposed to make a decision. They're supposed to make an opinion. And an opinion and a decision are not the same thing. Mm-hmm.
I think I disagree a little bit on the decision part. I think they are there to make decisions.
I've always said what they're there for is to say, this is our opinion on what the law means. That doesn't make it final.
I think I disagree with that, actually. Most lawyers would tell you they're there to make decisions on what the law actually is, on what it actually means. And when they make that decision, that's law. I disagree with that, actually.
Yeah, I disagree with that too.
I have, now, obviously, the practice is the way it is, and that's how you have to work with it if you're an attorney. I actually philosophically, fundamentally agree with the idea of stare decisis, which is basically, well, that's not really all that is. I disagree with the concept that judges interpret law. I disagree with
that. Okay, I'll run into this rabbit hole. If judges do not interpret law, who does?
Maybe I should rephrase. I don't think they make law.
I don't either.
When you interpret the law, you're basically making law. The way it's set up now, those are the same thing.
That's true. That's very true.
I think they should analyze cases on a case-by-case basis.
You don't believe in precedent?
No, that's probably the best way to say that. I don't believe precedent should work the way it does now. I don't believe that should actually be.
I can see that. Well, it happened like this three times before this. This is what happened. Therefore, this is the ruling.
That's what stare decisis actually is. But I mean, at a certain point, you have to realize cases that were decided 100 years ago, even 40 years ago,
even 15 years ago.
There's no reason that should be current law.
Well, I mean, see, I agree with that but we grew up in a you and I came of age in a weird paradigm to where the world drastically shifted over about 15 years.
Yeah.
Drastically.
Yeah. when a court decides the case, I think that should be considered, oh, this is a case-by-case basis, and at the most, it should be, okay, the court's policy is that they're going to generally decide
They're
cases.
probably going to do this.
Yeah. It shouldn't be, hey, this is the law. And that's the way it is right now, and I don't think that's a good idea.
Sure, but this goes back to what Washington, D.C. was originally supposed to be.
Right.
Like, and that's the problem everybody misses, is what the federal government was originally supposed to be, in all fairness, got pitched out like 5 years after the creation of it. I'm just saying, it did. But the federal government, Washington, D.C. was there to be a think tank.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Give or take a think tank for states to either agree or disagree with, and to mediate disputes between states. I saw it on Facebook today. It's a mutual friend of ours said it, and he goes, DC was there to basically be a think tank that the states could agree with or not, to mediate disputes between states, and to provide for the defense of the Union without a standing army.
Basically, what you've described is the UN or NATO.
Yeah.
And I will agree, that's what it should be. And that's the way it originally was.
Because in all reality, people will disagree with this all day long. The UN has no power. Real power.
Not until they invade somebody.
I don't even think they have power. I don't think if the UN invaded the United States.
I don't think they could invade the United States.
I don't either.
And actually hold it. Just to make sure you're not talking about authority, because authority is different than power.
No, I'm talking about power.
Okay.
Technically the UN technically has authority, but
I disagree with that too.
technically,
No, I disagree with that almost entirely.
I mean, on paper they do.
Depends on where you're deriving authority from.
Because the theory is international law supersedes sovereign law, etc., etc. I disagree with that, but okay. The comment that the mutual friend of ours made. Originally, DC's job was to oversee some interstate trade, deal with the Union security, but not to have a standing force, and basically be a think tank for ideas the states didn't have to abide by. For the most part, that's true.
I mean, if you're talking about originally, like under the Constitution, yeah, that's true.
But that got thrown out. Honestly, with the Whiskey Rebellion, and people don't even know what the Whiskey Rebellion is anymore. That's one of those.
You might as well just run the Constitution through a shredder when Marshall made the Supreme Court. I mean, that's when things fell apart.
Yeah, I can see that.
And every single lawyer that's listening to this just had a heart attack because Marshall is like the father of our modern legal system.
Which, that's the problem. We have a modern legal system.
Yeah.
And you and I said this for 50 plus episodes now. We have a legal system, not a justice system.
Exactly.
We 100% have a legal system, not a justice system. And I understand, and this is the thing I run into. I understand that human beings are fascinated by procedure and rules. I do. I get it.
Some are and some aren't. Like,
as a whole.
Generally, yeah.
Okay, if you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. Because I had a stunning realization today. I don't think I'm necessarily for state prisons.
Okay.
If you're gonna have a county court, a district court decide it, then you should serve your sentence out in that district.
Yes. Although
that's just I had that thought today driving by a courthouse.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack in there. First of all, prisons are a very recent idea.
Yeah.
The way
we do it now. Well, I was driving by a courthouse that's about to have a murder, either is about to or has a murder trial going on in it right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, if that person gets convicted, Department of Corrections comes and picks them up.
Well, that's the other thing. Are you talking about, and Oklahoma really doesn't acknowledge that there's any difference. Are you talking about a county court or a state court?
Yeah, true. They really don't acknowledge any difference.
Because almost every court in Oklahoma, if it's not a municipal court, it's probably a state court.
Yeah.
You have municipal, state, and federal.
Yeah.
You really don't have county courts in Oklahoma.
Yeah, because it's a state district.
Yeah. If you look at the top of all the pleadings that are filed in court, it says State of Oklahoma, District of
There's
Oklahoma County.
and a lot of people say, "Oh, well, it's a county courthouse."
It is because every county has one,
It is, but it's not.
but that's not the jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's
for
not
the
a
most
jurisdiction.
part.
Yeah,
I mean, you have county commissioners that are there and county clerks, and the court clerk. It's just so weird in this state.
it's weird everywhere.
Well, yeah,
I mean, most places, district courts are state courts.
yeah. It's so weird because it's the county, but it's also the state, and it's really not the way it should be.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree with you.
if the county is a separate jurisdiction, it should be a separate jurisdiction.
I agree with you. The problem is funding, because there's itty bitty counties, and
Well, yeah.
there's a lot of itty bitty counties that if they had something like a murder go on in it, they are not prepared to house in their county jail.
I think you could make that work. Think about, okay, Texas County is a tiny county.
Yeah,
Tiny.
well, population wise.
Yeah. Population wise, there's nobody there. How many murders do you think they have in that county?
They really don't. I mean, Garfield County has 60,000+ people in it.
Yeah.
And they've had one murder in.
Yeah. You really don't need all that extra funding if you don't have
That's true.
the people that actually commit the crime.
But I was sitting there going, if you go something like smaller than Garfield, like I was a cop in Garfield County at one point in my career. I know what their jail is like.
Yeah.
Saying that can house a homicide suspect or somebody convicted of homicide, yes, that's a possibility. You go to smaller county, like I was a cop in a smaller county than that, and I mean it's a third floor.
Yeah.
Like they don't have cells.
Yeah.
It's there's a men's cell and a women's cell. Like you know what I mean? There's not. It's totally different versus you getting something like, and granted this is Oklahoma, but well, hell, Oklahoma County, you can type bed sheets and get out apparently. But you get to a bigger county with more people and it actually has a jail.
Yeah.
That could double as a prison. And that's something people don't understand. There's a massive difference between a jail and a prison.
Yes.
Massive difference.
Yeah.
Like, if you drive by a prison, you know it.
Well, and I'd be curious to actually see the numbers. It seems like more people actually die in jails than they do in prisons.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
Again, I haven't seen the numbers, so I could be wrong on that.
But it's a different standard of training, too.
Yeah, that and I think that's why.
It's a totally different standard of training to be a DOC. Granted, it's about the same amount of pay. But to be DOC, a correction like a guard, a prison guard versus a jail staff. It's just a different level of training.
Yeah, and then we're also coming up into this point where we actually have to mention they're private prisons in Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, there's private.
Isn't
there private prisons in like 40 states?
Probably. And in Oklahoma, I've heard they actually have contracts that they have to be at a certain capacity.
Yes.
They have to be at like 96%.
capacity. I was going to say it's 92%, but
which is incredibly awkward when you think, well, how do you increase how many people are there?
I've been told, and this is an Oklahoma thing, but I've been told that there have been not necessarily like murderers, but high level inmates that should have been in McAllister in the state penitentiary go to private prisons to keep their numbers up. Like a high security inmate has gone to a medium security prison based off of that number, and you're never going to prove that. Like that's somebody in DOC moving, pieces around, numbers around to make sure everything works right. I don't think you'll ever prove that because then you have to prove intent and not good luck. Like that would be such a rarity to actually prove that. It'd be insane. The problem you run into though is most problems most real problems, I'll put it that way, most real problems can and do get taken care of at a state level.
Yeah.
At maximum state level. Very rarely, and everybody's going to bring up Roe v. Wade. While I do not agree with the ruling of Roe v. Wade, I also think the legalization of trying to make that illegal would be very difficult at best. I know that was a lot of words, but it's the legalization, and I'm not talking like legalizing something. I mean the actual legalese,
the rulemaking,
the process and logistics of making that illegal, and the elements of the crime would be very, very difficult to ever convict. That's I think that's the best way I've ever put it. Because if you run with for people that don't know this, when you commit a crime or are accused of a crime, there are things known as elements of the crime. And there's things called uniform jury instructions. The judge gives the jury instructions, and part of which have the elements of the crime in it. And the jury's job is basically a checkbox. And people don't understand this about the legal system.
not basically, literally.
Yeah, like
A lot of times you have pieces of paper that say, did they fulfill this element? Check, yes or no.
Yes, and generally there's 4 or 5, roughly, from every crime I've ever arrested for. There's 4 or 5 elements to every crime. It is not, well, did they do this? I mean, it's so. Well, I'm just gonna look it up. Elements of crime, homicide. Good Lord, I have a lot of tabs open. And we make the joke in my, about how I have 19 tabs open in my head. I literally probably have 19 tabs open right now. Crime of homicide. And granted, we're going. That's second-degree murder. What are the 5 basic elements of criminal homicide? Okay, let's just run with this. 5 basic elements of criminal homicide. In the common law, there was malice aforethought if the homicide was accomplished by 1. The intention to kill, 2. The intention to cause serious injury, 3. Extreme recklessness or disregard of a very substantial risk of causing death, 4. Commission or attempted commission of a felony, 5. According to some authorities, some. Like, you get to this moment of time of okay. This is Oklahoma only. This is Oklahoma only. Oklahoma statute provides there are 4 ways to commit homicide in our state. 3 most common types are first-degree murder charges that are filed in Oklahoma are malice aforethought murder, felony murder, and child abuse murder. So, no person, and this is strictly Oklahoma, say that again, no person may be convicted of murder in the first degree unless the state has proved beyond a reasonable doubt each element of the crime. These elements are: first, the death of a human; second, the death was unlawful; third, the death was caused by the defendant; fourth, the death was caused with malice aforethought, otherwise known as intent. Basically, that means intent.
Or just reading the jury instructions.
Yeah, ish. I took it from another website. I didn't actually go to LSC.
It sounds like the jury instructions.
That's
so first is death of a human on the jury instructions.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that is basically. It took it from a lawyer's website, so I'm gonna say that's the jury instructions.
They probably just copied and pasted from
Oh, and it has a hyperlink. See, Oklahoma Uniform Jury Instructions.
That's what it is.
CR-4-61.
The Ouija.
The Ouija. That's so much fun in Oklahoma.
I said that to a lawyer once, and they said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "The Ouija."
The Ouija.
OUJI. Oklahoma Uniform Jury Instructions.
Oh my God, I didn't know it.
They had never heard Ouija before.
Seriously?
I was like, that's what it's called.
Like, if we would debate something as a cop on what to charge, somebody would. I mean, it was like literally one of those. Go look at the Ouija.
Yeah.
To figure out if it fit
Which, if you mention that to anybody out of state, they'd be like, "Are you literally keep words inside?"
Yes, welcome to Oklahoma, where we summon other universes to figure out what we charge people with. But people do not understand that there are elements to a crime. It is when you get charged with a crime, they're going to give the jury instructions. Okay, so in a homicide case, they're going to look at the jury of 12 of your quote unquote peers, which we can have that discussion till death do us part. I mean, peers. I used to have.
Sorry, it was the death do us part that
I'm,
got me. That was weird. Don't do that.
till death do us part. I mean, it's just a phrase till we both die.
No, until one of us dies.
No, that's true. Those when I finally beat you to the grave, you're gonna have a very boring argument in life.
Okay.
Because we all know that the best Star Wars movie was Return of the Jedi.
I disagree, although that is really high on my list.
I know we all agree the best Star Wars movie is The Phantom Menace. It's just
Okay, I will literally throw you out of this right now.
the best one was Phantom Menace. The second best was the Last Jedi. I almost said the Final Jedi. Followed by the third most important one, Return of Skywalker or Rise of Skywalker.
I don't know. Attack the Clones.
Oh my
God, the dialogue in that was terrible.
This is how we get off topic right here. Because I'm sitting here going, I tell him the Phantom Menace is the best. But
I know you're joking. It's fine.
Am I? Phantom Menace is the best character in Star Wars history ever.
I know you're joking because I know what you're going to say.
He said Jar Jar.
I know. You're joking.
I freaking love Jar Jar things. It reminds me of most voters.
Okay.
Tell me that doesn't most voters right now.
I was going to say it reminds me of most congressmen, which actually is supposed to be.
Yeah. In the Senate. And this is how liberty dies. But when somebody's on trial for murder, they literally get these instructions. Was there a death of a human? Yes. Was the death unlawful? Yes or no. Was the death caused by the defendant? Yes or no. Was the death caused by malice aforethought? And that's a lot of arguments in murder. And most of these elements of the crime, when it comes to like homicide and rape and major felonies, are basically the same across the board. Like when you start looking at like California elements of the crime,
Yeah.
it's pretty damn close. Yeah. So you get this moment of the death of a human, like where people start debating, where defense attorneys make their money in homicide cases, was the death caused by malice aforethought? Kyle Rittenhouse. This is where they're actually going to make the case. Was the death unlawful? Because if it was made self-defense, then it was no longer unlawful.
Which I think you actually have a pretty good case there.
I think you have a really good case there, especially with the news that came out that somebody else fired around before he fired. Yeah. But that being said, uniform jury instructions are given nationwide to juries. Mm-hmm. Did this, and this happen. It is not like Law and Order where you see these people, like any Law and Order show you've ever watched, where you see people, and there's a bunch of emotion into it. No, it is this happened. Yeah. Period. It's a checklist. Well, this also gives a rise to what I said earlier. Human beings as a whole are infatuated with procedure and rules. Yeah. They want this checklist, and I had a district judge say this once, that he would rather have the Russian law under the American system than have the Russian system with American law. And it was,
yeah,
and I agree with that. That's been in my mind for damn near a decade, because he was he was a district judge that helped teach my academy, and it was one of those, because the American system is very, very standardized.
Oh yeah, it is standardized. I mean, pause and I started putting things in there that I could say.
Bastardized.
Well, yeah, comparatively, it is very pro-defendant. I'll say that, which I think is a good thing. Comparatively.
Okay, comparatively, yes.
Presumption of innocence is actually a legal doctrine in this country.
Realistically, it's not. Because we've said this before. This is true too. How many criminal cases go to trial?
Yeah.
It's
But in other countries, you bring a presumption of innocence. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's up to the defendant to prove innocence. Yeah. Oh Lord, if I can sneeze again.
Those are my yawning.
Don't knock it. But I am so hyped up right now.
I know.
I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. Which is, I'm not drinking Mountain Dew at all. I'm literally drinking orange and the body armor. To keep my immune system up because it decided to get 30 degrees here.
I used to think that Mountain Dew was like the worst thing that you could possibly drink until I had a professor that drank Diet Mountain Dew. I was like,
that is disgusting.
That's even worse.
Like, I'm a Mountain Dew fan. Diet Mountain Dew is gross.
You like Mountain Dew?
I love Mountain Dew. What?
Okay.
I love it. Did you not know that?
No, although it fits.
How does that? Oh, do tell, Professor. How does this fit?
Well, Greg.
This is gonna be good.
What about Monster? How do you feel about Monster?
No.
No. Okay. That would have fit even better, but no, it's fine.
Red Bull. What?
See, now I'm torn because I don't like Red Bull or any of that. I think it tastes terrible. But
See, I like Red Bull.
I do have a little bit of a thing for Red Bull just because of the air races.
Oh yeah. No, if I have to get an energy drink.
Not tonight.
Not
You
tonight.
can't even talk
Yeah.
anymore.
Like. Well, I know you're judging me because I'm all hyped up because of baseball. I get it.
I'm not judging you. It's just weirding me out that you're like, I don't know.
Superhuman energy.
Super male vitality.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I shouldn't have done
we
that.
could have gone years without you bringing that person back into this. This is where we go now.
Somebody, I think this is the first time I've ever verbally said this. Somebody was simping for that guy in one of my group chats the other day. And I had to say, just stop. Please.
The term simping,
Yeah.
just it makes me want to vomit every single time I hear it.
Simp.
It's I don't get it. I cannot do that term. Like,
See, if you ask me what it meant, I'm not even sure I can tell you. But from context, I know how to use it. Are you gonna Google it? You're googling it right now.
Because I don't.
I do actually want to know where it came from because
It's an acronym.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was an abbreviation.
I think it's an acronym.
Like sus, like that's
Yeah, I
or suspicious.
I can't do that either.
You can't do that.
No.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna start short typing you.
I will quit. I will quit responding. I can't stand it. I can't stand it when people say it. I can't stand. I just
Do you have a definition for us?
DailyRapFacts.com.
Oh my gosh.
That sounds.
I'm gonna stop using it right now just because of that.
A simp is a man who is needy and a fool for a woman. A simp is usually friend-zoned and mistreated by women. Simp is short for simpleton.
Okay, so it is an abbreviation. It's not an acronym. Simpleton.
Simp is also interpreted as an acronym.
Okay. This might actually make more sense.
I'm not sure I can say that on here.
Oh.
Hell, I'm going to mark it explicit anyway. An acronym for sucker idolizing mediocre pussy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might actually have to stop using that.
I'm telling you, half the terms that get used now, I'm just when you, and this makes me sound really old, and I don't care. When you Google that, you're like, oh my God, do you understand what you're saying?
I'm gonna stop using
or cap or what's the other one? Cap or no cap? In the term, and I'll read, cap, no cap, capper, and capping was popularized in Atlanta, Georgia when Young Thug and Future released the track No Cap. The expression cap is slang meaning for lie or bullshit. The expression no cap is slang meaning for no lie, for real. The expression capper is slang meaning for a faker. And the expression capping and capping is slang meaning for lying and faking. Like, the simple fact that there is a daily rap facts and a rap dictionary is disturbing me. Like, I remember old school rappers. I say old school. Like, sorry, Tupac, you knew what he was saying. 50 Cent, you knew what he was saying. Eminem in the beginning, you knew what he was saying. You didn't.
Sorry.
Like, before rehab, you knew what these people were saying. Now you have to literally have a website dedicated to a dictionary to figure out what is being said in a rap song, in a hip hop song. And I'm going to end this part of that show with the fact of saying, lap is a thing.
Oh my goodness. Why? Why did you go there?
Simping, lap, it all relates. You're the one that brought this up.
I have regrets.
I don't understand.
Like the Ben Shapiro part. WAP reading, whatever.
Did he
was.
What? Ben Shapiro read it?
Okay, we're gonna have to do this off air.
Oh.
Or if you want to do it on air.
No, I don't. I know. I do not want WAP anywhere near this show. Like, I have very low standards. But when I heard a 7-year-old singing that, I was just like,
gosh. A 7-year-old?
Uh-huh.
Do I know the 7-year-old?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. I think I know.
Oh, and then another one's 6-year-old who's about to turn 7 apparently was walking around the house one day. One of our friends' daughters was walking around the house one day singing it, and he about had it come apart.
Good.
Because apparently she heard it at school. And I'm like, how does a first grader hear this song at school? Like, in 5th grade, my teacher was afraid to play Green Day because it had I'm not kidding.
Well, I take that. Well, I take that back. I wasn't listening to that filth when I was in 1st grade.
I mean, I heard some of it on the bus. Like, I heard Eminem on the bus, but I was in like 4th or 5th grade.
I also went to a very rural school.
Yeah. Like, the hip-hop station, I remember back in the day where you would hear, like, granted, they were edited. Like, they're super strict FCC rules back then. Like, half the crap that gets, like, you couldn't play half the stuff that gets played today, even edited.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, 50 Cent and Eminem, the edited versions.
Yeah.
Being played on
the Kids Bop versions.
Like, it was pretty close. I mean, it was pretty close.
Yeah.
Because, I just, the idea of simping and cap, no cap, like, English, do you speak it? That made me just sound really, like, get off my lawn. I'm sorry, get off my lawn.
You're turning 30, you're getting old.
I don't, like, do you get it?
Get what?
Why do people talk like that? Holy crap, that just sounded really old. Like,
yeah. I mean,
I don't get it. Like, we didn't have slang terms like that one.
Are you joking?
No. We can make calls in baseball based off like codes and was like countries and like when I played sports it was countries and like one year we did.
Do you want me to?
Like candy bars.
Do you want me to ruin this argument for you?
Oh God, what?
Groovy.
See, I never had something. We never had anything like that.
No, because groovy went out of style in the 70s. People have always done this.
Yeah, but groovy at least makes sense.
Sick.
I guess. Okay, we had.
Dude, that was totally sick.
Yeah, I can see that. But that was like an actual word. Simping is not a word. Simp is not a word.
What's the term? Is it wasp?
Oh yeah,
I mean that's
but that's also a baseball term too.
yeah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
Average scoring position.
Is it white Anglo-Saxon Protestant?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my parents know what that is.
Like you say that to me though, and I'm like, okay, what's the percentage? Like that's an actual baseball acronym.
I was gonna say bougie, but that actually comes from a word that's been around for over 100 years.
Yeah, like bougie comes from another word.
Yeah.
That's why when you said simp was an
Well, I mean, simp,
abbreviation, I was like, I swear it was. I got told it was an acronym.
simpleton, and it's an abbreviation like WASP.
I can see it. That is not the context in which most people are using it.
Granted, the actual spelling out of WASP is a lot clearer than simp, but
Yeah. Because when I first heard that, I'm like, do what? Because you say simp and I think of shrimp.
Huh.
I'm like, why is that person shrimp? What? I'm so confused. And then the entire reason I had to go ask somebody and then look this up of what it meant was there's a whole Tulsi Gabbard following the literally they're like their Twitter handles will be like simping for Gabbard, and I'm like,
this conversation,
sorry you brought it up.
It's like watching a pinball machine because it's like we started on Amy Coney.
We
Barrett.
will get back to Amy Coney Barrett.
Maybe we should do that now.
But it goes to how, okay, this goes to your point. How much has things changed in 15 years?
Well,
I mean, you could literally wrap your head around this. You could literally have somebody, because I've heard people talking in conversation with these terms that are 21, 22, 23 years old. They would get tried as an adult. You stick them on a stand and they say, yeah, he was simping for her hard. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like court, like
yeah.
And I've made this.
You're gonna have to make them explain that to
yes.
most of the jury.
Which honestly, with the current vocabulary of most people under the age of 25, is going to be very difficult.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
Like these terms have made it into mainstream society to where there's a total disconnect between the trial and the tried.
Yeah.
Which no longer throws every argument out for the hope of a justice system, because
well, it creates problems when you're talking about a jury of their peers.
I was literally about to say that. I'm like, you're talking about a jury of their peers because, and I get why people would be against this, and I understand it. However, when I was a cop and cops got tried for especially when there was a bunch of cases, and we've discussed a bunch of them, of controversial shootings.
Yeah.
A jury of a cop's peers is 12 other cops. Because to be a peer,
yeah,
you have to take in training, experience, relevance, everything.
Well, okay, so to some degree, that might be true. And the argument that would really get me there is a lot of police departments develop their own culture, not as a police department, but as cops.
Yes, they do, wholeheartedly.
Which I don't think is a good thing.
It's human nature.
Well, yes, but I've seen cops do it a lot more than any other person.
No, they don't. Any first responder community does it, and veterans do it, and active duty military does it. Like it affects you the most when cops do it.
But there's a perception both in the public and within the cop system. Cops are different.
I can see that.
Like everybody views cops. Cops do it, even the public, whatever it doesn't. And really, I'm doing it now because those shouldn't be different things. But cops are different. Everybody thinks that.
A lot of cops, and I don't think they'll admit to it. A lot of cops are paranoid.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's part of the subculture.
Because it gets ingrained into you, and people don't understand that.
But by the way, this is not a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing because I'm trying to think. It was like mid 90s. Day one of the academy, and I've been told that this gets done a lot. There's a shooting. I want to say it's a Georgia State Trooper. It's somewhere down south. It's Georgia, Alabama. And the cop lights him up. I want to say it was early, mid 90s.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've actually seen this video.
And the cop lights him up. And it's a Vietnam vet.
Yeah. And
he snaps, has a PTSD episode, gets out, I want to say with a rifle.
Yeah.
And ends up killing the cop. Well, the dash cam catches it, and when he drives off, when the shooter drives off, he ends up getting caught, convicted, and executed down south for homicide of police officer. Which I'm gonna take. I will take hell from this.
You want me to say it? Because I was going to get ready to say
it.
Homicide is homicide.
Homicide is homicide. It should not matter one way or the other. Assault is assault. It should not matter one way or the other. And I have a bunch of friends who would beat me over the head with a rock for saying that. However,
you should not have more rights for being a police officer.
You don't get. I agree. I agree. And I always tried to live by that too. I made a point that if I ever got in a fight, I charged them with simple assault.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime it got escalated to A and B on a peace officer, I was not the one that did it.
Right.
And there are people I've worked with that can vouch for that. It was one of those, I got my ass chewed for doing that. I always charged it as assault. I never, ever, ever, that I recall, charged A and B on a peace officer personally.
Mm-hmm.
It always once it got to the DA, it got escalated.
Right.
So, and people can give me all sorts of help. I tried to live by everything I say. It was never, when somebody tried to run me over, I charged them with attempted homicide.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up, they legitimately were trying to kill me. It was, yeah. And I'll tell you this one, I had every legal right to defend myself with lethal force, and ended up taking them into custody alive. So, anybody ever wants to come at me and say, well, you've never been in any of those situations. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I improvised, and I adapted, and I overcame, and I took that person into custody alive. Period. Period. Part of it was, there was a lot of factors involved in that. But the end result is the same. That person walked away alive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, during that video, and we got shown it to us the first day of our academy. After the person drives away, you can hear the cop wailing and screaming in pain. And eventually the dash cam keeps going and it goes quiet, and he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget an instructor in my academy, after the lights came on, was one of those, if you can't handle that, this isn't for you. And you get shown video after video after video after video, and they're out there. We live in the world of technology. These videos are out there everywhere.
Yeah.
The problem is the percentile in which they happen is actually very, very low.
Yeah.
But from day one, you get ingrained that every traffic, and I understand where the mentality comes from. I understand it. But it gets ingrained in your head that every single traffic stop, somebody could walk out with an M1 Grand and off you and kill you. Well, that automatically makes you paranoid for every single traffic stop. And I won't even divulge into the idea of traffic stops. Because the number one thing that gets cops killed are traffic stops. The number one thing we keep doing is running traffic stops.
Yeah.
For stuff that, even though on the books it's a misdemeanor, will never get treated like a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
It is literally its entire, That is color of the law versus letter of the law, and it is an entirely different subsection. Well, it's traffic.
Well, yeah, on I suppose in the criminal code it probably is actually classified as a misdemeanor, but every piece of paper that I've ever seen for traffic, it says violation.
Yeah, in the criminal code in Oklahoma's Title 47, it says is guilty of a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Well, it's there's only two classes of law. At least in Oklahoma, and in most states, the way I read it, there's only two classes of law. There is misdemeanors and felony misdemeanors, which is actually people say felonies. It is actually termed in criminal law, well, from the police side, a felony misdemeanor. Traffic is this whole other concept of, well, it's a violation. Well, it's a violation. According to law, it's a misdemeanor, but it doesn't get treated like that. And I think what's mind-boggling to me is as law enforcement, and there is the theory of broken windows policing, and you can argue that all day long, every day of the week, etc. It's do you chase down the broken window to find the person who broke the window to stop them from escalating further because they never got caught? It's the same theory with traffic stops. Traffic stops, and I understand there's going to be somebody out there, it's a NHTSA Nazi, that's going to, well, it saves lives. Show me the victim in a traffic violation. And you can't say the state. Like, the state is not a victim. Show me the actual victim in the traffic. Well, we're preventing it from being an actual victim because we're stopping it. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And there's cops out there who are legitimately getting killed on traffic stops. And one happened in southern Oklahoma. I don't remember where. It started with a C, I believe. It's down south in Norman. It might have even been. I don't remember. But the kid was like 21. Like, he had been a cop for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Traffic stop for a tag light. Something's not checking out. Driver pulls a gun, shoots him because he had a warrant. Kid dies. I mean, it was one of those. You were in this moment of time of, hey, guess what? Because I've said this since episode 1. You go to a firehouse model of policing, you drastically change everything.
Yeah. Well, that's what we talked about before here on the show. I mean, we talked about this, in our first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
If you go to a firehouse model, that does take a lot of the danger out of it.
Because the problem is, with traffic stops, every single time a person's coming into contact with a police officer, it's adversarial.
Yes.
Out of nature, adversarial. And traffic law disproportionately affects poor people. And people don't believe me. Well, if they would just change, dude, they're making $8.33 an hour with 2 kids doing the best they can to try. Like, and I know a person like this who has worked their way up through a corporate system on an hourly basis, has 3 kids, refuses to take government help. The last thing you're thinking about and doing, do you do a walk around every day at your car?
No.
I do, but it's out of habit.
Yeah, I did think about that actually on the way here because one of my tires was low, but that's off the point.
But it's still a whole. When's the last time you checked your tag light? When's the last time somebody else got in your car and checked your third brake light? I do a walk around because it's habit to me because I know how ridiculous traffic laws are.
Yeah.
Because I've said this over and over and over again. You cannot get in your vehicle right now. And the hotel we're in right now, I mean, if you're new to this, my house burned down in May. We're slowly rebuilding. We're living in a hotel. So probably next April. Oh, longest 11 months of my life. But, literally, right behind my hotel is a Walmart Supercenter. You can't leave this hotel, drive to that Walmart, and drive back and do everything 100% legal according to traffic law. And we don't have the worst traffic law in the country. California's traffic law is way worse than ours. Texas even, because they have state inspections. They don't have state inspections in Oklahoma. You run into this, traffic law does more reputable harm to the idea of policing than anything else.
Yeah.
Because You got through, and I mean, I've done it. I did it today on accident. I got two kids screaming in the back that they're hungry. You know, my wife's trying to get them Cheez-Its or something, and it's like you get distracted and you look down. Oh crap! I'm going 15 over. It's granted, it was a backcountry road. It was one of those catch-22s. Like, oh, shit. But if you have 2 or 3 kids screaming in the back, you're not thinking about other things. You're thinking about, like, so hypothetically, and granted, I've been pulled over before by a state trooper on a highway out by where I used to live, and it was the entire reason. I had 2 screaming kids in the back, and he looks in the back and he got it, like one of those, oh, that's why. But I got pulled over for like 8 over.
Yeah.
Like, but it automatically when those lights come on, it's like, oh crap, what did I do? Oh my god, how many things could they write me for? Oh, this, like traffic stops automatically make, like, anytime you see a cop car, now it's adversarial because it's even if they pull up behind you.
Yeah.
It's the, like, adrenaline goes up, tension goes up, your heart rate goes up. For most people, granted, I did it long enough that I look up and go, well, they're going to pull me over. They're not going to pull me over. Well, I better not get my insurance out because my insurance is on my phone, and using your phone while driving is illegal.
Yeah.
It's like you run into this whole, like, checklist in your head but I did it. So I know what they're looking for. Versus, there's a lot of people that it turns into, the second that cop car gets behind them, their anxiety goes through the roof.
Yeah.
And people, like, law enforcement doesn't understand that because it's something you do every single day. Especially after 5 years. You're just like, why is this person going so slow? Why are they freaking, like, I don't get it. Why are they freaking, oh, I'm in a cop car. Like, I've had that moment on the highway. I'm just like, why, what is going on?
And see, I'm the guy, if the cop starts following me, which I have happened a lot because I drive a car that,
You drive a hoopty.
yeah, I'll just pull over. Like, I just pull over and I'm like, hey, if you want to, like, talk to me, that's fine. But if not, why don't you just go to your business somewhere else?
I just, firehouse model policing, which I think you're getting towards, the problem is society's breaking down to get towards it.
Yeah.
The firehouse model policing would actually drastically work better because if you, and there's a whole argument about victimless crime and traffic laws and yada 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 yada. There's an entire discussion there that's 5 hours long, and I don't have time for it tonight. There is,
yeah,
because show me the victim, and I will say this, and this is controversial, and I have never made up my mind on this. DUI is actually a victimless crime.
Yeah.
And there's rough statistics behind it that say out of all the impaired drivers in the United States, police only catch 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of money that goes to DUI prevention. I get it. I understand that there's going to be families out there, and I'm probably going to get hate mail. But, you know, my dad was killed by a drunk driver. I get it. However, if you go to the base of a victimless crime, DUI is one of them. Because when you arrest them, the victim is the state.
Yeah.
And I have I don't want to say moral ethical problem, because it's not moral or ethical. I have a problem. I don't know if it's moral or ethical. It's one of them. But I have a problem with the state being a victim. Because the state is not a person. The state is an entity.
Right.
I don't know. And this leads back to Amy Coney Barrett. Because Amy Coney Barrett does not look at the person like that. And I get a lot of hell from people. They're like, oh, well, you lean too liberal. That's because last time I checked, also gun rights, they're the only people that believe in individual rights anymore. There's a lot of conservatives that do not believe in individual rights.
Yeah. Well, I remember, growing up, even just a couple of years ago, Republicans actually talked about small government. small government,
Yeah, and they don't
individual
do it.
rights, all of that. You don't hear that anymore. Republican candidates don't talk about that anymore.
Well, and the funny part was somebody made a comment on one of my Facebook posts today that if you hadn't got banned, you could have seen about how
I'm not going to apologize for that.
I know you're not. The Libertarian Party
Yeah.
is on track to become the second major party.
Yeah, probably.
Because somebody made the comment that once the Democrats fade away and the Libertarian, it was the whole. I shared a meme about there's a guy holding a socket. Yeah, hasn't it killed people before? Yeah, it's different this time. Talking about the duopoly of politics. And somebody made a comment that really kind of rocked my world, made me rethink things. That the Libertarian Party is on its way to replace the Democrats.
Okay.
Not in ideology.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Democrats would disappear and the Republicans become the statists and the Libertarians are the opposite of it. And I was like,
Well, that actually,
you could be right.
yeah, that actually makes sense because when I think about the biggest problem that Democrats are facing, it's irrelevancy.
Yeah, they're becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, if you want to, people putting their pronouns in their Twitter, just I'm like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
However,
You do that on Zoom, by the way.
However, don't lose your shit if I mess it up. I'm human.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm a grammar Nazi and proper English, and that's a whole discussion I'm just going to get my ass chewed for, especially by hate mail. But that runs into this. Tomorrow, the United States Senate is going to push through a Supreme Court justice that believes in individual rights. And a friend of mine on Facebook that you don't know made a comment or shared a meme, and it was I don't think it was Mother Teresa, but it was somebody within the Catholic Church now. Being pro-life, there's a difference between being pro-birth and being pro-life. Now, granted, he's extremely liberal, and we agree on the problems, we don't agree on the solutions. But if you want a child to be born, then, and I understand this comes back to the parent's responsibility. I understand that. But a child being born also means a child needs to be fed and cared for and have an education. And granted, we're going to come up. I guarantee you sit him and I down at a table, we're going to have a totally different aspect.
Yeah.
Or a totally different angle of attack on how to solve those issues. Totally different. Totally opposite. One's going to be heavily government, one's going to be not. But being pro-life and being pro-birth is not the same thing. And it's something the left says, and I don't agree with, they say it as a justification for abortion, and I disagree with that. However, they've got a point. To look up and say, granted, this goes back to community, and it goes back to the idea that human beings living in megatropolises of 30 million people like LA County is, that the Los Angeles greater Los Angeles metro area is, that's different. Like conservatives don't want to understand this, but the reason gangs exist and thrive is because they create a community and kids get fed.
Yeah.
They get an education. Might not be an education that Karen agrees with, but they get fed and families get taken care of. And you go to small town communities, it's the same thing. And we've lived in small towns to where if there's a single mom and she's trying and just not making it, that community will pull together to help her with those kids.
Yeah. That
child. Or she has, 2 kids. Whatever the case may be, people are actually more generous when you don't rob them of 41% of their paycheck. Hey, that's my honest God opinion. People will take care of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, oh no, they won't look at this person, that person, this person, that. If you grew up in South LA in a neighborhood, a lot of times that neighborhood, that block will take care of you.
Yeah.
Granted, and this runs into the idea of the drug war. Granted, the way they do it might be selling cocaine.
Yeah.
But they will have the funds to take it. They take care of their own. Most places take care of their own.
Yeah. Well, so I attend church pretty regularly, and I've been in the same church for years. For a little while, we had a food bank. We had to discontinue it because we had too much food and not enough people actually using it because they were being taken care of by other people.
And people don't believe me when I say that. You will see communities take care of communities.
Yeah.
Right now, when 41 cents out of every single dollar most likely goes out to the government to take care of people, people are still taking care of people.
Yeah.
What happens if you give them most of that money back? I'm serious.
Yeah.
Because being pro-birth is not being pro-life.
Yeah. Well, and people, yeah, I think we've already made that argument. People use it as a justification when really it's not a problem. I mean, it's not as much of a problem as they're willing to make it out to be. The other thing is, if that's your argument, number one, make adoption easier.
Yeah.
And number two, there are already people lined up to adopt babies.
Well,
That's the most commonly adopted child.
I'm adopted.
Yeah.
My situation was interesting and special, and it is what it is. My biological mother has been a meth addict her entire life. I have seen her, I have seen her inside of a correctional facility, a prison, more than I've ever seen her out of it. My situation is different. I very easily could have been aborted. The entire reason I probably wasn't was because of money. I mean, she probably didn't have the money. She's too busy getting high. That being said, there's been no definitive proof ever. I mean, I've been told who it is. There's been no definitive proof ever on who my actual father, who my sperm donor was. So it's to people to look up and say, "Oh, well, adopted kids have a disadvantage, or this or that." Or this. I'm literally sitting here recording a podcast about politics and griping and bitching about both major parties. So I'm not on either side. And I'm over here yelling about police reform and yelling about civil rights. And like, we do this at least 3 times a week. And last time I checked, it gets listened to in 7 or 8 different countries. Don't tell me adopted kids can't do something. Granted, has it been easy? No. Was my childhood easy? My childhood was awesome. My childhood was freaking amazing. Like, freaking amazing. Like, I just want to go back and relive all that. Like, knowing what I know now, I just want to go back and relive my childhood over again. Because my childhood was freaking amazing. It really was. The thing about it is, you bring up these arguments, well, what happens if they get adopted by a pedophile? Sorry to be an asshole, but pedophiles don't spread wood chippers. You're never get like pedophilia is the one thing you will never get me to move on because I've seen I've seen what it does to people. I've seen the victims of it.
Yeah. Well, and when people say that, the response should be, okay, what do you want to do about that?
Like, if there's one thing in the entire world that I think you could make an argument, and people do it with rape a lot, but you can make the argument for capital punishment for that does not take a human life, it's pedophilia.
Well, generally, yeah. I mean,
granted, under the legal system, and this is the same judge that said the American system, Russian law comment.
Yeah.
To take a life has to be taken.
Okay.
And I understand it. In our system, to take a life has to be taken. And you cannot put tangibility on mentality or emotional distress. Okay. You can't put a tangibility on it.
Right. Well, there was a time when the two causes for capital punishment were murder and rape.
And rape, yeah.
And let's be honest, molestation,
Child abuse, pedophilia.
it's all
a sex crime.
Yeah.
And sex crimes, like, once you've seen the other side of it, once you've seen the victims, then you look at it differently. Like, it's an odd paradigm to be in. Like, and I don't know where I go with that. I don't know how to put that. But the entire reason that most conservatives, quote unquote conservatives, let's just say Republicans, are up and like joying and cheering, yes, they're going to confirm Amy Coney Barrett. One reason: Roe v. Wade.
Well, and see, I'm of the position that whether she gets confirmed or not, it doesn't change much as far as that's concerned.
I don't think it changes much because you get a challenge to Roe v. Wade, and that requires John Roberts to let it go to the Supreme Court. Yeah. Like, it's a 6-3 conservative majority.
Well,
conservative is a moving, sliding scale at this point. And you know my opinion on theocracies.
Yeah. My thing on Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court is you've had how many years? 50?
7. It was done in 71.
Let's say 73.
It might have been.
Let's just see.
That might have been 73.
Give me the year in the little summary. Come on. 1973. It's been, what, almost 50 years?
Yeah, and you studied.
And you've had so many appointees, so many confirmations. One of the presidents who made those appointments was Ronald Reagan, who was the Republican messiah, basically.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It's never been overturned. It's been modified, but it's never actually been overturned. The Supreme Court is not going to significantly change their position on this.
The Supreme Court's job is to reinforce laws that have not already been decided. Let's say reinforce or incinerate laws that have not already been decided. Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973, and you're not going to overturn it.
And by legal doctrine, if they've already decided a case, they're supposed to uphold that decision.
And the Supreme Court will.
Yeah, they will.
Which it's when you hear senators from the last week quizzing ACB on, well, what about Roe v. Wade? What about this? What about that? It's all political theater.
Yeah.
Under legal doctrine, it'll never get there.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of that is ACB scares me, and I've said this on previous episodes because and I say this very lightly because I catch hell every time I say this. You are 6 inches away from the theocracy. And theocracies are a hop, skip, and a jump away from fascism. Being a fascist country. Fascism. It's Iran gets grilled by our media because they're a theocracy. Well, they're a fascist regime. Because their law is religious law. If you have people in law making legal decisions based off religious preference,
I think you can have fascism just as easily without theocracy, but that's...
No, I agree. You can have fascism without theocracy. Not that Hitler did it.
Yeah, I don't care if it's theocratic or not. It all sucks.
It all sucks.
Just like I don't care who's on the Supreme Court, and most people say, "Oh, you don't care who's making law," and I say, "No, it's all going to suck."
Yeah, it's all going to suck. I put it on. You missed this too. I put it on Facebook. I'm getting 100 to 200 emails an hour right now, and it's all 99% of it's political. I go put it on Facebook. I'm getting 100 to 200 emails an hour, 90% political. Let me make this clear. I'm not giving you money. I'm not voting for you. You all suck. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
You just, what are you trying to accomplish by putting this person on the Supreme Court? Because if you understand the history of the Supreme Court, granted it hasn't happened since 1869, the number of justices can change.
Yeah.
Congress can change the number of justices. And I'm not as convinced as most Republicans out there that this is just going to be a landslide for Donald Trump. I'm really not. I mean, you and I ran maps last episode, and I'm not. And I put a couple of my maps and my theories on Facebook today, and it was like, there's too much blue in there. Like, one of them was like, I had Florida going blue, and Michigan was the only undecided, and it was tied.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean there's too much? There's one question here.
Yeah.
And that's Florida. Sorry, Illinois is not just all of a sudden going to go red. If California goes red, I will probably turn on the grave.
Hey, they can dream.
Oh, like somebody made the argument today of Nevada going red, and I was like,
I don't know enough about Nevada.
The argument was Biden would shut down the hospitality industry again due to COVID, which is probably true. I could see it.
Yeah.
And Vegas thrives off being open.
Yeah. Everybody does, right?
Well, I'm just saying. The wheat farmer may or may not notice, Vegas being closed.
Nobody thrives from being closed, though.
The 40,000 people that work in the hospitality industry in Vegas are going to notice if they don't have a job. Like, that entire city, that entire socioeconomic construct out there was made intentionally and requires customers. There's no like natural resources for them to just hop over and be like, yeah, I think I'll go join the oil field today. That doesn't exist in Clark County, Nevada. But ACB scares me. And I think it was a play, just like I think Pence was a play by Donald Trump to get the evangelical right. Oh my gosh, look at what he did. He got the Supreme Court 6-3. We've got a chance. We've got a chance to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Oh, it's so close.
I know it was. It only took me an hour in to do it. We've got a chance. But did he not perfectly set it up for the evangelical right? Running into the last week of election, we got to look what Donald Trump did. We've got a chance to overturn Roe v. Wade. And, I'm going to catch hell for saying this too, and I'm used to it at this point. A lot of abolitionists are just pro-birth. They're not pro-life. Because they're so they're so fixated. I tried to combine fixated and fascinated with getting one thing overturned that they haven't thought out. I haven't met an abolitionist that's legitimately thought this out yet. And I'm curious, there's one we both know, and I really want to go ask him and be like, okay, hey, come on a podcast.
I think I disagree with you. But
I haven't met one. Like, I haven't met one personally that I know of that's like thought this out. Besides you.
Okay.
You think in legal doctrine.
Yeah.
Most.
That's kind of insulting, but okay.
What did my wife say? Oh, it was like listening to a presidential debate. Yeah, that was insulting. Like, really? No, but you think like that. How many other abolitionists do you know, honestly, that have thought through elements of the crime and trial and prosecution of it and realizing you can make it illegal tomorrow. If the threshold to convict is so damn high, it's pointless anyway. It's a scare tactic. You and I have said it before. You want to actually make it easier? Just start taking medical licenses. Yeah, that's the easy way through it.
Well, and at that point, you have to talk about goals of different movements because I understand why the abolitionists don't want to just take medical licenses. Like, I understand that. I don't know if I agree or not. I don't think I do.
Okay, why?
Some of them consider it an issue that it's not being called murder. Like, they want it called murder. And they don't care about anything else. They want it called murder. I mean, they care, but it's like, if it's not called murder, they don't want it.
Do you care about the title or do you care about the effect?
And see, I care about the effect.
I care about the effect more than I care about the title.
People, if you take this viewpoint, people are literally dying.
Yeah, if you take, yeah.
And you're going to sacrifice all of those.
Like, it's semantics at that point.
Yeah.
And the problem runs down to, they are like, and I've seen this all over social media, from pro-lifers that Amy Coney Barrett is the key. And I'm like, have you ever thought this through? Well, all we gotta do is appeal something to the Supreme Court, and they make a landmark decision that will basically nullify.
We've been doing that for 50 years.
We've been doing that for 50 years. Because this is something that a lot of people don't understand. The Supreme Court has the power to say, no, we're not taking this case.
They do it all the time.
They do it all the time. I really want to know the statistics. I would almost bet it was 15% or less of cases that get submitted to the Supreme Court that actually get heard in front of them. And the Supreme Court is not a typical court either. Like, you're not. Yes, there's oral arguments, but it's more than that. There's oral, there's written, and when they make a decision, they send it to you in a memo. It's not like the Supreme Court comes out and says, "This is our decision. It shall be." Like, they don't do that. Is there a number?
I'm looking for it.
Yeah, I was like, because everybody thinks if you appeal it, okay, if you appeal it at the state level, it goes to the federal circuit level, and then if you appeal it from there, it goes to the Supreme Court. You're right. The problem is the appeals court can say no too. They rarely do. However, the appeals court, the Federal Circuit Appeals Court, can't say no. The Supreme Court says no way more often than they say yes.
According to this, roughly 70% of the petitions end with a vote not to accept the case.
And that's the thing. So for every 10 cases that get submitted to the Supreme Court, they take 3 of them.
Yeah.
So running this idea that Amy Coney Barrett is the lifeline to the pro-life movement, that's okay, the pro-birth movement. I really am going to start calling it that. It's the pro-birth movement. Because, and I'm going to sound like a Democrat when I say this, and I really don't care. If you look up, and you're like, you have to have this baby, it's a life, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I agree a life begins with conception, etc., whatever. And you end that 9.5 months later when that baby's born and they're living in a box, or they're living in a shanty, or they're living in the baby's not eating, or the mom's not eating, or something like that, and you look up and go, well, I guess you should have planned for that. You're a dick, number 1. And 2, you're not pro-life, you're pro-birth. And I just alienated myself even more in the state of Oklahoma. You have a very twisted look on your face.
Sorry, there's news. Just don't worry about it.
There's news. What kind of news?
I don't know. It's a news stream on YouTube, but it's like
breaking news.
Yes, it says breaking news, but I don't know what it is.
See, and that's one of those things where, like, me and Tulsi disagree. Tulsi is pro-choice, and I disagree with her. But at least, this is the thing. I think most pro-choice people are way more grounded in their conviction than most pro-birth people.
What do you mean grounded in conviction?
At least they know what they believe.
Yeah, maybe.
There's a lot of pro-birth people that are just like, well, you can't kill it. It's murder. Okay, I agree with you. What do you do when they're born? Well, then you get a job and go to work. Okay, boomer.
Well, yeah.
You see the conundrum you run into?
Well, I think it's easier on the other side to form arguments because you don't have to deal with that problem.
Well,
and I don't
I agree. Okay, I agree with
problem. I
no
just mean,
that issue. The issues that come up. I agree with that, but I will subjugate it with this. The cop out is, well, that's your responsibility to deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't want the baby, you shouldn't have spread your legs. Blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a lot of really, and I'm serious when I say this, there's a lot of really hateful comments that I hear pro-life conservative people make about single moms. a lot. And I'm like, it takes a lot inside of me to not turn around and be like, what the fuck, Karen? Would you rather have been aborted? Well, no. But she needs to learn how to discipline her kids. Okay? She may have had 3 hours of sleep working 2 jobs. Or she may have had 3 hours of sleep because she was working overnights and had to take the kids to school and got a 3-hour nap while the kids were at school, had to go pick the kids up from school, and then go back to work and work an overnight. You don't know what in the hell's going on in those people's lives, so shut the fuck up. Not sorry. So you see that single mom dragging 3 kids through Walmart, you don't know if she got out of an abusive relationship. You don't know why that dad's not in that life. Or if you see a single dad going through Walmart with 3 kids. You don't know what happened. But I guarantee if any of those 3 kids had been brought up and the idea of abortion happened, you'd have a fucking come apart. Well, that's murder. If you're going to be pro-life, you have to be pro-parent too. And as a parent with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, or almost 3-year-old and 1-year-old, each child's different, things are different, and it's a learning experience every single day. You do. As a parent, I feel like I do 99% of the things wrong. Because I'm just like, what? You did it right yesterday. Like, you understood this concept yesterday. How do you not understand this concept today? Like, try and potty train somebody. I'm telling you. If you're going to be pro-life, beyond pro-birth, quit thinking people like ACB is your savior and start being pro-parent. And I think this goes for both sides and everybody. Be more humble. You don't know their story. Just like you don't know my story, you don't know Lucas's story, you don't know our stories. And that single mom dragging 3 kids through Walmart, counting and scrunching every single thing they pick up, because they're like, oh my God, can I afford the real cheese, or do I need to get the name brand cheese, or my kids want cookies, or, and I'm not saying give a kid everything. I understand. Well, don't spoil your kids. Okay, your kid drives a Jaguar that you bought him. Shut up. But I've seen those parents. It was like when that single mom is taking those 3 kids through Walmart, adding and crunching numbers to everything that adds up, because they worked 40 or 50 hours that week, and they're just trying to make sure their kids have food, and they might be on 2.5 or 3 hours of sleep. Cut them some slack. You don't know their story.
I think that's generally good advice for everybody. I try to tell this to, again, I'm a Christian. I try to tell this to fellow Christians. Maybe you should consider people's situations before you
judge them. Hey, but the person who has not a speck in their eye for the first time. You don't know their stories. And the biggest problem we have in society is you're leaving it up to the legal system to treat people human when you won't even do it yourselves. People have bad days. People have bad lives. And I think my biggest irk with ACB, outside of the whole leaning theocracy, and theocracy leads to fascism real easy, like that's a slippery slope, is all I've heard for 2 weeks is how Roe v. Wade is going to get overturned because of ACB. Because Amy Coney Barrett's going to be make the 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. We're going to overturn it. We're going to outlaw abortion. And that happens, and people start having children, which, I hope they do. Kids are a blessing. As much as they want to make you want to drink or pull your hair out. I love my kids to death. Like, I'm a massive LA Dodgers fan. The LA Dodgers are in the World Series right now. And the other night, I looked at my 3-year-old, my almost 3-year-old daughter. I was like, hey, can you say go Dodgers? And she pops out, go Dodgers. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And now, like, it's stuck, and she said it. And kids are a blessing. It's little stuff like, and I got so excited that she remembered how to say it. And I've been walking away. Hey, Kennedy, can you say go Dodgers? She's like, go Dodgers. If you're going to run down this road and you're going to say, let's hypothetically say ACB, gets confirmed Monday, 6 months from now, somehow Roe v. Wade, it gets overturned. Cool, whatever. And probably 80 to 90% of states outlaw abortion. Cool, whatever. Stop looking at those kids and that single mom in Walmart with 3 kids, stressed out, tired, needs a vacation. Hell, doesn't even need a vacation, needs 15 minutes just to breathe. That most likely is on less than 4 hours of sleep, especially if they're a working single mom.
Yeah.
Because that parent doesn't have the buying power you had, Karen, to be a stay-at-home mom. Or hell, even a single mom 20, 30 years ago had triple the amount of buying power per dollar they made. If you're going to be pro-life, be pro-life. If you're going to be pro-birth, be pro-birth and own it that you're a dick afterwards. Well, that's their responsibility. Well, she needs to learn how to discipline her kids. Well, stop. Treat people human. And quit relying on the almighty Supreme Court to change the world. Because every single person has it inside of them to change the world. Step 1, treat people human. You don't know their stories. That goes with masks. That goes with, addiction. That goes with abortion. That goes with the single mom with 3 kids who consciously made a decision not to abort their kids. Had their kids and is trying to feed them. And you could sum this all up with one simple phrase. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. It's not difficult. Some days it is. Everybody has bad days. Just remember, you don't know their story just like they don't know yours. I'm done ranting.
Yeah, I think I'm done too.
Tell them where they can find you on the only social media that hasn't banned you yet.
I'm on the Twitter. I think it's going.
There it is. I'm on everything else. At Greg Daniel. Including Twitter. I take it back. I'm on everything else, including Twitter. Because miraculously, I didn't update it yet. Script tagline, you got a week.
I know. I've been thinking about this. I'm going to have to find another one.
You're going to have to find another tagline after your election.
Vote bold, vote gold, JoJo 2020.
I'm going to end this the same way I always end this, or I have ended it recently. Fall for nothing. Question everything. And be prepared for anything. Asterisk in today's episode, don't be a dick. You don't know their story, they don't know yours. Till Valhalla, guys. Bye.